I'm a fan of a lot of different games, with Nintendo games being some of my favorite of all time. But there is one specific Nintendo game out there that has always piqued my interest, and that is Super Smash Bros. Melee for the GameCube. But the ironic thing is, even though it is one of my favorite games to watch, it is also one of the games I have interacted with the least of, if not at all when compared to other games. It's just so intimidating. So I feel like talking about why I feel it's too late for me to get into Smash Melee. A quick background on my history with Smash. I owned Melee when it came out all those years ago. I had a cousin of mine unlock every character, and I vividly remember salivating at the mouth at the thought of being able to play as Pichu in a Smash game. Alright, this is before I knew that he was a crappy character, alright, so don't judge me. I brought that same level of excitement with every subsequent Smash game after Melee, and needless to say, whenever a new Smash game released, I stopped playing the previous one. So I never really played Melee again once we got Brawl. Fast forward a few years later, and we have the release of Smash Ultimate for the Switch. This is where I actually started playing Smash just a bit more seriously than the previous games. It's the game that introduced me to this whole new world of competitive Smash, and I was hooked. My main was Yoshi, and I entered many different online tournaments. I even did well in a few of them. I would then go to a couple of in-person tournaments and did not do so well. So I guess you could have called me an online warrior or something like that. Since I was now invested in the world of competitive Smash, it was inevitable that I'd come across the competitive Melee community. I wasn't completely unaware of the community though. I'd always known of the gods of Melee prior to me getting interested in competitive Smash, but it wasn't until my time taking Smash Ultimate seriously that I also started following some Melee storylines, as some people call them. I'd always tune into the major Smash Melee tournaments whenever they'd be streaming, and I even got to a point where I was more excited to watch a Melee tournament than an Ultimate one, with Big House 10 being my all-time favorite Smash tournament I've spectated because of Mr. Amsa himself and his victory. At this point, I couldn't help myself. My interest in Melee had reached a peak that couldn't be satiated by simply watching some Melee streams. I wanted to play the damn game. Unfortunately though, playing Melee online isn't as simple as turning your Switch on and booting up Melee to play against other players. No, you gotta visit the zoo to get yourself a dolphin and a frog named Slippy in order to play some online Melee. And I should note, I'm not very tech savvy when it comes to stuff like this. Sure, I can retweet a tweet on Twitter, but I didn't know what an ISO was until I was interested in playing Melee online. So after my monumental accomplishment of following some God's YouTube tutorial step by step, I was finally able to play some online Melee. It was garbage. I mean, the actual experience of it, not the game itself. I must have messed something up in the installation process because everything just felt so laggy. I thought maybe it was my internet connection, so I pulled a Giga Chad move and connected my Ethernet cable to my laptop at one point, and it still felt weird. I doubt that this is how Melee is supposed to feel. My inputs just didn't feel fast enough either, and I thought Melee was supposed to make you feel like your character was running at the speed of light when compared to other Smash games. So I resorted to going back to YouTube to try and figure out if it was all just my laptop not having the necessary power to run Melee correctly, or if I just needed to change something within Slippy's settings. And before I did any of this, a couple of thoughts came barreling into my head. Why am I doing this? I mean, even if I do get Melee running perfectly on my PC, what's next? Well, surely I get to grinding. I lab all my combos and then try them out on some unsuspecting dude in Unranked. Then I repeat this process for maybe a couple hours and then come back the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day, until I finally feel ready to join some online tournament because in-person ones can be few and far between at times. But then eventually I do get into an in-person tournament, and then obviously I would get bodied and humiliated at these tournaments. But I learned how to wave dash, I scream as I leave the tournament in tears. I then go home and buy a $600 custom GameCube controller because Mr. Leffen says that's what makes you a better player, right? Yes, it was also clear to me. My short-lived Melee career was flashing before my eyes before it even happened. And to spare my poor wallet of having to buy a fobbed GameCube controller or whatever you call it, I decided to just quit. So my competitive Melee journey ended before it even started. And that's okay. I want you to think of a famous actor. Any actor. Some people might think of an actor from the Marvel Universe. Maybe Robert Downey Jr. or Tom Holland. Others might think of some older actors like Brad Pitt or Matt Damon. Or maybe you think of comedic actors like Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler. Now, I want you to think of a Melee player. Personally, my mind jumps straight to Hungrybox and then Mango and then Amsa. Yes, I'm like a normie. and I'm sure a lot of you people watching this think the same way. The point I'm trying to make here is, it is a lot easier to become a famous actor or celebrity than it is to become one of the best Melee players in the world, because there are more famous actors than there are notable Melee players. I mean, think about it. Leonardo DiCaprio isn't literally fighting me to get a role in a movie, and the Melee equivalent of Leonardo DiCaprio is Hungrybox, and he is kicking my ass to keep me out of a tournament. If this analogy doesn't make any sense to you, then I'm sorry, it makes sense to me. And the reason I'm saying all of this crap is just to state, Melee is freaking hard, man. Only the people at the tippy top eat, while everyone else just battles for other stuff like bragging rights and some kind of notoriety. I believe Melee, like any other competitive Smash game, is hard as fuck. Alright, especially Melee, because I got good at Smash Ultimate with little to no effort. But I feel like Melee is just another beast entirely. It's no wonder I only ever see the same people doing decent at these tournaments, because most of them started playing Melee before the internet was even invented. Alright, maybe I'm exaggerating there, but you understand my sentiment. So yeah, because I was too chicken to get into competitive Melee, I thought to myself, well, there must be some other avenue I can pursue that still lets me be a part of the Melee community without having to actually compete in it. And then I had a brilliant idea. Content creation. That's right, I thought, well, if I can't hold my own against good Melee players, well then maybe I can talk about them? Like, make videos about some of my favorite players like Junebug and Amsa, and just glaze them for a few minutes. And then I realized that there are already so many top tier videos made on the topic of Melee. I'm not exaggerating when I say that a lot of popular Melee videos out there are arguably some of the best videos ever produced for YouTube, or just content as a whole. The production quality and editing on these videos that talk about a decades-old game have no reason going this hard. And the knowledge dropped in these videos are just encyclopedic in nature. They say things about Melee that I feel even the developers of the game didn't know about. So once again, I find myself in the same position I was in before, giving up before I even started. So now what? If I don't have the energy or know-how to play Melee competitively or even talk about it, then what do? Oh, that's right. I do what I've been doing this whole time. Be a fan. Be a fan of the players who make tournaments as exciting as they are. Be a fan of the people who document Melee in the most creative ways imaginable on YouTube. I wasn't sure what the purpose of this video was when I started it, but I've now realized that this is just a big appreciation video dedicated to all those Melee players and content creators that have spent countless hours honing their craft. Because I've realized it is no easy task doing any of this, and it truly takes a lot of discipline to be a notable member of the Melee community. So yeah, this is just something I felt like coming on here to talk about for a bit. As you can tell, the question, is it too late to get into Melee, was more for myself. But hey, if you want to know the answer to that for yourself, well, shoot, don't let me discourage you.